Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. We evaluated the position players. Now it's time for first half grades for the pitchers. And bullpen, buckle up.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons. And this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating and reviewing. If you're listening to us in podcast form, you can get us wherever you get your podcast, anywhere that you find podcasts, we're available. And YouTube as well, you can check us out. If you're doing that, like, subscribe, all of that great stuff. It's free and easy to subscribe to Locked On Phillies on YouTube, and it'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It really helps us out. So if you do that, helps you, helps us. Hey, win-win, right? Perfect. So I appreciate everyone who's done that already. And I just appreciate everyone tuning in to Locked On Phillies. We are still in the All-Star break, but we have only one more day. And then the Phillies are going to be taking on the Angels Friday night. Yep. So we're going to be good to go. And back to baseball and back to the focus on the trade deadline. By the way, we are going to have a special crossover episode with Locked On Orioles. It's Connor Square. Connor, who hosts Locked On Orioles, and Connor, me, who hosts Locked On Phillies. We're going to get together and talk about potential trades that could get done between the Phils and the O's. So that will come out at some point, either Friday or Saturday of this week, to give you a little more color from another team's perspective on what the Phils could do. But we did the position players. Now it's time for the pitchers, grading out the first half of the season for the Philadelphia Phillies hurlers. Now, the position players, they move up and down less, right? It's less likely to see a guy come up for a game, go down for a game, etc. So I may take some guys like Seth Johnson's currently on the roster. Daniel Robert is currently on the roster. I may replace those with some other guys that have been up, like Aaron Nola and Mick Abel may replace those guys, and I may use them for rating just because that's a little more compelling. You guys don't need me to tell you that Daniel Robert hasn't been great for the Philadelphia Phillies. That Seth Johnson hasn't really done all that much this year because he hasn't been asked to do all that much. So yeah, we'll flip those as we go. But we're going to start with the rotation because the bullpen, well, they're the more critical part. They're also the more salacious part of this episode. But I don't want you to wait around for me to just say, oh, the starters are all pretty darn good. They are pretty darn good. So let's start with the top of the Phillies rotation. One, Zachary Wheeler. I did not give out an A+ to a Philadelphia Phillies position player, but I will here. Zach Wheeler with his 2.36 ERA, his 154 strikeouts and 122 innings pitched. His all-star game nod, even though he chose not to participate, he gets an A+. He is right now the odds-on favorite to win the National League Cy Young Award, meaning he is one of the top 2 pitchers in all of baseball, the top in the National League at this point in the season. That is an A+. I don't care what the expectations were. I don't care how much you're getting paid. I don't care he was supposed to be the ace. Nope. Throw all of that out in the argument. There is only one grade for Zach Wheeler. It is an A+. Every time you get a chance to watch him, he is a monster. We should enjoy every single one of Zach Wheeler's starts. So that is the easiest grade on this team right now. Even guys like Schwarber and Turner have complications that you have to talk through. Wheeler, A+. Keep it up. I want to see him win the NL Cy Young. I want to see him be this guy in October. Let's go with Christopher Sanchez next. Will be the next guy that we evaluate. The dude that was probably closest to getting the nod for being an NL All-Star. There's these conflicting reports that he said he doesn't want to be, he turned down an invitation, but his teammates were really mad when Jacob Misiorowski of the Milwaukee Brewers ended up on the National League All-Star team. So I don't know what goes on with all that, but I do know the numbers. He's 8-2 with a 2.5 ERA, 115 innings pitched, 122 strikeouts. Not the strikeout numbers of Wheeler, but the ERA pretty darn close. And he has just been unbelievable as well. Now, I can't give him the A+ because he's got a couple of starts in there where he hasn't looked like a top of the rotation guy, right? And he doesn't have to be on this team because you already have that filled in Zach Wheeler. But as far as expectations for Christopher Sanchez, we talked about him as a dark horse candidate for Cy Young this year. He has kind of been that in the National League. I'm going to give him an A. Like, you know what's funny with Christopher Sanchez? Like, you think and you say, okay, yeah, what does Sanchez do? Well, he throws like 96, 97 with this plus changeup, great swing and miss stuff. All of that factors into him being one of these top of the rotation arms. And then you remember, or maybe you don't, but you should remember, he just started throwing this hard this year. Like, this is a recent development for Christopher Sanchez. The fact that it almost feels like he's been doing this for years, doesn't it? That's how clean and quick he developed into this guy with a plus fastball, a knockout changeup, which he already had, but it plays better off the hard stuff. Yeah, I'll give him an A even, right? I'll bump him up to an A even because he is doing everything you could have asked him to. Now, I can't give him the A plus because he has not had the season, the season that Wheeler's had, but A for Christopher Sanchez, I don't think is unfair. You're going to see some really, really nice grades for guys in the starting rotation. So he's been great. He's a really big part of what the Phillies are going to try and do with this rotation in the postseason. And hopefully so is this guy. Ranger Suarez will be the next guy that we give a grade to. Now, he's kind of tricky, right? You know, I said that like Wheeler's the easiest grade. Maybe Sanchez was the second easiest grade because there's very little drawback on Sanchez. He's just been pretty darn consistently good, just not quite to the level of Zach Wheeler. But Rangers got a 2.15 ERA, the lowest on the team. He's 7-3. In 83 and 2/3 innings, he's only struck out 78 guys. But he's not like the true strikeout guy that Wheeler is and that Sanchez has developed into. So I'm not killing him for that. What hurts Ranger is he's pitched in 13 games this year. For clarification, Sanchez has made 19 starts. Wheeler has made 19 starts. So Christopher Sanchez and Wheeler both have 6 more starts than Ranger Suarez. So he does get knocked a little bit for that. And the availability has been the knock on Ranger. But his performance, like just what he's done on the mound, is A+. The fact that he missed a month and change of the season does knock that down a little bit. And it's part of the reason he wasn't an all-star, and it's part of the reason there are questions about him going forward as like a long-term option for this team. Do you pay that guy a bunch of money in the offseason? Well, that's an offseason conversation. Does he last till October? Well, that's a this season conversation. And I'm going to give Ranger, is it fair to give him an A- just because of missed time, even though when he's been on the mound, he's been awesome? I think I have to, right? I think I got to go Wheeler A+, Sanchez A, Ranger A-. None of those are like bad, great. They're all getting A's. They are. I just feel like that's a great way to tier them to show you who's been more important to the team over the first half of the season. Now, if that's unfair and you think Ranger should be higher because when he's been on the mound, he's been good, or Sanchez should be higher because, well, the expectation is not what it is for Zach Wheeler, and he's been pretty darn similar. Just the strikeout numbers are a little bit lower. But you can let me know in the comments if I'm evaluating those 3 guys. But just looking at those numbers and what they've done for this team, that should make you feel good about a playoff rotation, especially if this guy is who he can be. And that's Jesus Luzardo, the next guy that we'll give a grade to. Now, Luzardo's tricky, real tricky. 8-5 in 19 starts, 4.14 ERA, 122 strikeouts and 104 in the third innings pitch. So he's got the strikeout numbers. He's got great stuff. He's got put you away stuff. And if you were to eliminate 2 starts, his numbers would look strikingly similar to Sanchez and Wheeler and Suarez. But unfortunately, those 2 starts did happen. And was it tipping pitches? It kind of seems so. And now that he's trying to fix tipping pitches, has he thrown off his mechanics? Well, it kind of seemed like it. But he looked really, really good in his last start pre-All-Star break, which was the final game there in San Francisco, where he shut out the Giants through 7 innings worth of work. So who is Jesus Luzardo? Who has he been? I'm going to give him so hard, man, because like 80% of his performances are A to A+. And then 20% of his performances are like C to D+. So where does he average out? I'm going to give him a B+. No, I'm going to give him a B even. I do think there is a gap in between like where Ranger has been and where he's been. So I can't just go like A- Ranger, B+ for Luzardo. I'll give him a B even because I need to see more consistency. And that does worry me a little bit for the postseason. Like, I'll tell you right now, if he was taking the ball in an elimination game, I'd feel mostly good, but there would be a voice in the back of my head that says, what if it's a blow-up start? That does not exist for Ranger. That does not exist for Christopher Sanchez. That does not exist for Zach Wheeler. Not that they're not capable of that, but that's the way that I look at it for those guys. I don't feel that same way about Luzardo because of the issues he's had this year. Maybe that's unfair if it was indeed tipping pitches, but that's how I feel about him. So I'll go B even. But you have 4 guys now in the rotation, 3 A's, a B, and finally we'll round out with the guy who is in the rotation right now in Taijuan Walker. And this one, like Taijuan Walker is going to get a higher grade from me than I think a lot of people expect. I'm going to give Taijuan Walker a B as well. And remember what we did with position players. If you missed that episode, you can go back and listen to it or watch it on YouTube. It is kind of grading on a curve, right? Like Otto Kemp, his numbers are not as good as, say, JT Realmuto's. But Otto Kemp got a better letter grade because of what's expected of him and what he's given based on expectation. Taijuan Walker was dead in the water. I did not want him on this team. He should not have been on this team to start the year. And all he's done is pitched in 20 games, swingman from the bullpen to the starting rotation, a 3.55 ERA, 58 in the third innings pitched, 49 strikeouts, has gotten to a point where his career ERA, 4.16. So his ERA this year with the Phillies is below career average, and he has really shown, hey, I still got a little bit of something left in the tank. Now, do I want Taijuan Walker to be a big part of the pitching equation for this team? No. But in what he's been asked to do, has he been really darn good? Yeah, he's this year's Michael Lorenzen. He's this year's Spencer Turnbull. He's this year's Noah Syndergaard. I don't really want to see them pitching big-time innings in the postseason, but they've given you something to hold this team over in the regular season, and he deserves credit for that. And I would have never thought that I'd be lauding Taijuan Walker at the All-Star break, but I'm going to give him a B as well. Put him right on par with Jesus Luzardo because it's been equally shocking what you've gotten from Taijuan Walker this year. Some people are going to be mad at that. Don't think I'm saying throw Taijuan Walker in the postseason. I hope he doesn't throw an inning for this team in the postseason. All due respect with what he's done this year. But that's only because the quality of the rotation is great and the quality of the bullpen needs to improve at the trade deadline. But what he's done to this point, I've got to give him a pretty darn good grade. Is that fair? Let me know in the comments. Those are the 5 current starting pitchers. Coming up, we're going to talk about 2 guys that are not in the rotation that have been, and we're going to start to dive into the bullpen arms, the high leverage guys, and the guys that maybe shouldn't be on this roster right now. So we'll get into that. The starting rotation was the easy part of this episode, folks. The bullpen going to be much more critical. We'll talk about it as we continue today's episode. Let's talk about Supply House, though, because getting the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, well, that's what Supply House is for. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you're going to find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Maybe you need help with an order. It happens. Well, Supply House knows that, and they offer expert support and industry-leading service. So you're always going to talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free, yes, free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. If you could get that for free, why wouldn't you? Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. You're behind the 8 ball if you don't. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM. That's T as in trade, M as in master, and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. One more time, supplyhouse.com. All right, let's discuss a little bit of what's going on with the bullpen. I know. Crazy, right? That we're talking about this bullpen and giving out grades. Should I just give the entire unit an F? Well, not so fast. There are some sneaky, underrated bullpen bright spots. And then there are some major major bullpen dark spots. So we're going to have to balance this out. I'm going to try and be as fair as possible. Would I like to give the whole bullpen like a D- to maybe even an F? Kinda, yeah. But is that fair to the individuals? No, it's not. So we're going to take a look at it as fair as we can. Before we get into the bullpen, let's look at the two guys that are not currently with the team. There is a guy that's going to get an F, and that guy is Aaron Nola. Now, part of this is tough to do because he's been injured. And I'm not saying I don't want Aaron Nola back with this team. I'm not saying he's useless. And don't take this too far. Remember what this exercise is. It is grading out the first half of this season. If we want to have a referendum on the contract with Aaron Nola, we can do that in the offseason. If we want to talk about what the future of him is for this team, we can do that in the offseason. Right now, he's not with the team, but he was part of their original starting rotation. So I'm going to put him in here over a guy like Seth Johnson, who really I don't have that much to say about. I mean, Seth Johnson is a guy that's pitched in 3 games, right? He has 5 innings pitched. How much evaluation do you really want at that? Daniel Robert is a guy that has pitched in 6 games. He has 4 innings pitched. Like, how much of an evaluation do you want on that? So I'm going to throw in Aaron Nola, and Mick Abel will be the guy that we talk about coming up next. But Nola gets an F for me. Failing grade. He was terrible when he was available. He's been on the injured list pretty much ever since. There was one redeemable Aaron Nola start, and that was in St. Louis when he pitched against the Cardinals when the Phillies went out there for the first time. And even that one, I think the Phillies did not win the game because the offense was quiet. And he just really never contributed to this team to this point this year. Now, could he come back and do something? Absolutely. Do I believe this injury is a reset for him mentally? Maybe. It could be. I don't know. Aaron Nola is on parts unknown right now. So it'd probably be better to give him an incomplete grade, but considering it's halfway and everybody's grade is incomplete, I got to give him an F. I'm not trying to be rough on the guy because I'm a Nola guy, right? I think he gets an unfair rap in this city for the way that he's pitched for this team for a decade, right? But if we're looking at this year in the first half of the season, it's been a failure for Aaron Nola. And that's a minimal sample size because part of that is spent via injury. And we knocked down Ranger Suarez due to injury as well. So there's precedence there compared to how I graded out other players. Now, Mick Abel's a weird one, right? So Nola's the only guy that's gotten an F. Mick Abel, where in the world do I put him? He had the start against Skeens where he outduels him. He goes 6 innings, shuts him down. He had a couple other good starts in there where he looked pretty darn good. And then a couple blow-up starts against the Cubs and the Mets. And what do you do with Mick Abel? How do you evaluate him? I think I'm going to give Abel a C+, right? About a little above where you thought he was going to be. Maybe that's unfair. Maybe it should be a B- because we weren't expecting him to come up this year. All eyes were on Andrew Painter, and Abel gets the call first, and he contributed to this team a little bit. But it's hard to overlook the way that he exited the major leagues. I don't think his career is done by any stretch of the imagination, but looking at that and you say, okay, what were the knocks on Abel at the minor league level? Control's been an issue. Well, control was an issue. He stopped being able to find the strike zone. When he did, he was hitting spots that were very easy to hit, elevated. He was getting crushed. He was giving up bombs. So that whole combination of can't hit the strike zone. When you do, you're giving up very hard contact. It's very earlier this year Aaron Nola-esque. It's very end of last year Taijuan Walker-esque. It's very bad pitcher at the major league level-esque. Now, I'm not saying Mick Abel's a bad pitcher at the major league level. Like, we don't know. But the stuff that got him sent down was stuff that should have gotten him sent down. And the stuff that got him sent up was stuff that should have gotten him sent up. So I'll go C+, because, frankly, I think he pitched out over his skis a little bit in the first couple of games. We saw him come back down to earth very quickly. He gave the Phillies more than we expected, but not to the level that we thought through the first, to the point where now there's people that are like, well, I want him gone, trade him. Trade him away. I don't need him on this team. And there's some folks that are like, I really hope I don't see him go because I've seen him show me something at the major league level, which is probably a good thing that there's still conflict in the fan base when you look at that because of the whole idea of, hey, we're going to have to convince the team to take him at the trade deadline if we do that. And some folks worried that his performance while he was up the last couple of starts might have killed his trade value. So I like that we're still able to have this discourse in the fan base because it means there are still people that believe in the ceiling of Mick Abel. That probably means there's teams out there that would trade for him. But I can't give him more than that, honestly. I really can't. And the Nola thing and the Abel thing are very intriguing cases to make for grading, and more so than Seth Johnson or Daniel Robert. So that's why I wanted to get to them there and those kind of what could they be in the future. Painter obviously doesn't get a grade because he hasn't been called up yet. If you're wondering my evaluation of Painter, he's been underwhelming at the AAA level. I don't really care. I'd like to see him at the major league level. If he stinks up here, then we'll have a conversation. But I want to see him up, and I want to see him up soon. So there's even a little bonus Andrew Painter look. Am I being fair to the kid, Abel? Am I being fair to Nola to give him an F? You guys can debate that, and you guys can let me know in the comments. But we've got the bullpen to go through, and there are going to be a lot of quick, bad grades as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk Monarch money, though. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Of course, we all have. That's one of the certainties of life, is you wish you were better with your money. Well, with Monarch money, it can be much easier to manage your money. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch money is so much more than just a budgeting app. It's not just going to show you, like, I can check my bank account and know how much money I have. I can kind of think about, like, okay, I probably shouldn't spend on this or that. But you have a complete financial command center with Monarch money. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending, all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. You're not just maintaining what you have, you're growing it. And there are specific things that Monarch money does better than any app that I've used, any website that I've used, right? So if you share finances with someone, it's much, much easier to look at that with the joint accounts and everything. They help you stay on the same page. Sometimes that can be tough. You don't know who's making what changes or who's seeing what. Monarch money makes that very easy for you. And it helps you, it gives you the opportunity to set financial goals. So you have it right there. I can't do that by just looking at my bank account. I could do it in my head. I could write it down. Monarch money makes it easy for you. So take control of your finances with Monarch money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com, and you'll get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Go ahead and check them out, monarchmoney.com. All right, these are going to be quicker than those starter evaluations because, well, bullpen arms, we have an idea of where a lot of these guys are going to go. I'm going to go in the order that they have them here on the MLB.com roster, just like I did with the position players. So this is not in any specific order. I'm not picking on guys, but I will be picking on guys if they've stunk this year. Let's start with Tanner Banks. One of the sneaky bright spots in the Phillies bullpen. I thought coming into this season, this guy stinks, right? I was a Tanner Banks. I have no interest. He could throw against like a lefty-lefty matchup once every 4 or 5 games. That would have been the extent of how I used Tanner Banks. He's kind of turned into this year's Jose Ruiz. Now, Jose Ruiz last year was better, but this guy that you don't really think about, and then before you realize it, he's getting kind of higher leverage innings, and he's doing okay in them. He's thrown in 40 games, 41 innings total. He's got 41 strikeouts, so he's striking out a guy per inning. His whip is .98, his ERA is 3.29. He's been pretty darn good. You could sneaky throw Tanner Banks in the postseason, and I don't know if I'd lose my mind over it. Now, I'd like an upgrade, but for what I expected, I'm going to give Tanner Banks a B. Yeah, I'm going to give him a B. He hasn't been like B plus, A minus, A. Like, I reserve that for guys that have been really, really good. I don't know if we have many of those in the bullpen, but based on expectations, Tanner Banks deserves it. B for Banks, let's go with it. He's been one of the sneaky bright spots that we overlook. Orion Kerkering is the next guy here. Oh, how do we talk about Kirk? 35 2/3 innings pitched, 34 strikeouts, 2.78 ERA. That 2.78 ERA says great year. The expectations, not great. So I'm gonna give him a B minus. That just feels like the right grade, right? There have been disappointing stretches for Kirk. And then there have been incredible stretches where he shows you flashes of the guy you believe he can be. The biggest issue for Orion Kerkering this year, which may be a red flag going forward, is he's been forced into a high leverage type of role on this team with the Jose Alvarado suspension. And he hasn't exactly grabbed the bull by the horns. He hasn't been bucked off the bull, but he doesn't really feel like he's controlling the situation, right? Here's what I mean by that. He feels like he's still spinning his wheels to figure out like how he's going to be as a high leverage reliever. He doesn't quite feel like a put him in the back end of the bullpen, don't think about it guy. He's a put him in the back end of the bullpen and think about it a little bit type of guy. So remember, this is a dude that's still young. This is a guy that's still finding himself at the major league level. His quick rise makes you forget that he's still only 24 years old. So there's a lot of good years of Ryan Kirkering still to come. But for this year's team in this first half, I'm going to give him a B-. Just because I expected more out of him this year. I expected him to be more settled. He hasn't looked like that. And maybe that's more a product of the situation he's been put into, with Estevez not re-signing, Hoffman not re-signing, Alvarado being suspended, than what Kirkering has actually done. Max Lazar. Somebody might look at him and say, hey, he's actually been a sneaky bright spot for the Phillies. I'm not going that far. He has been kind of what I've expected him to be. That's why I'm giving him a C even. 3.54 ERA in 20 and a third innings pitched, 14 strikeouts. Not crazy strikeout stuff, not a crazy ERA, just kind of right down the middle of the road. Max Lazar is only 26, so maybe there are better days ahead for him. And it's nice that he's getting that experience, but I'm not going to lie to you and say I've been fired up about the performance of Max Lazar. Now, he's earned the right. Here's what Max Lazar has earned for me, right? Where I'm comfortable with him. If you're in a game where you're up 5 or more, and it's like the 7th or 8th inning, I'm okay with Max Lazar going out there as long as you have somebody else that can throw in the bullpen at a moment's notice, right? He's usable in games. It's not the greatest ringing endorsement, right? It would be like if I had a restaurant and I said our food is edible. And like, yeah, I mean, I sure hope that I'm not winning any awards for the cuisine. And Max Lazar is not winning any awards for his bullpen performance this year. But I can't say the guy's been terrible, right? I don't want to be unfair. The numbers look all right. I'm giving him a C. Now we get a little bit rough. Jordan Romano. Oh, buddy, a 7.29 ERA, 37 strikeouts and 33 and a third innings pitched, a 1.50 whip. That ERA may be a little inflated based on performances like the Marlins game earlier on in the year where he gave up like 7 or 8, I forget what it was, in the 9th inning of a game. But God, has he been disappointing. What do you want me to say? You want me to grade just as good performances and forget about the bad? You want me to pretend like he's not replacing 2 all-star caliber arms basically by himself? And maybe that's unfair expectations. But when he's sold as the guy that's going to be the back end of your bullpen this year to make up for Hoffman and Estevez leaving, it wasn't Kirkering. It was Romano that was supposed to be in that role. And he has not filled it. Now, he has had moments, stretches, where he's looked really good, which is why I can't give him an F. But I'm giving him a D. The only reason, and I'm also not giving him a D- because there was a run there where he was looking like, hey, I see why they did this. I see why they signed this guy. And it wasn't a short run. It was like 13 appearances or something in double-digit appearances. So that bumps you up a letter grade from failing. But you're not going to write home about getting a D. He's been a major D for disappointment this year for the Philadelphia Phillies, and he needs to really pick it up in the second half. I don't know if he'll get the opportunity because when you look at how much this bullpen needs help, Dave Dombrowski may sell out to bring in other guys to make Romano your 6th inning or 7th inning guy. So I don't know if he'll get more high leverage opportunities this year. Well, he will in the regular season, but like when we get to the postseason, no clue. Joe Ross, D-. Like he's been even worse, and his numbers aren't worse, but he's been even worse. Like 5.4 ERA, you just can't really use him in any situation. He hasn't had strikeout stuff. The upside just doesn't seem, at least with Romano, the stuff looks good at points. The upside is there. I don't get the Joe Ross thing at all. I thought he could be a swingman guy that fills in the rotation and gives you long relief, and he's really given neither of those this year. Those are your 2 bullpen signings. Romano with a D, Joe Ross with a D-. That shows you the bad offseason that Dave Dombrowski had with the bullpen. The final guy that we'll bring in here is Matt Strahm. And Strahm is going to get I'm going to give Strahm a C-. This might feel unfair for a guy who is still one of your better relievers, but He's coming off an all-star season, and he has majorly dropped off. If you're expecting all-star stuff and you get a 3.29 ERA and a 1.17 WHIP and a 1-3 record, you look at that and you say, okay, he's regressed from being an all-star, or he's having a rougher year, right? Like, he has taken a step back, Matt Strahm has, from his performance in 2024. So I can't give him an above C grade. That would mean above expectations. I can't do that. So C- for him, D- for Joe Ross, D for Jordan Romano. Like, you look at C for Max Lazar, like all of that. C for Ryan Kirkring, or C- for Ryan. Like, this hasn't been good. There are no B's and A's and stuff in the bullpen, besides Tanner Banks, who got a B, and that's only because I thought he stunk. Like, that's why you need to have one or two A arms move into the bullpen or be acquired at the trade deadline this year for this bullpen to become viable. Compare those grades to the lineup. Try and tell me again why adding a right-handed bat is more important than a high-leverage reliever, because it's not. So there are our grades. Again, coming up next episode, we're going to talk with Connor of Locked On Orioles for a little update on what exactly is going on with potential Phillies-Orioles trade negotiations. Either that's going to be the next episode, or I may do my one tomorrow, which is going to be a preview of the Phillies series with the Angels, because this is coming out on Thursday, July 17th. So tomorrow, Phils are back in action. Just like that, the All-Star break is just about over. So either way, we got more great content coming the rest of the week. It's some busy stuff. We're going to even start putting out weekend shows as the month goes on, leading up to the trade deadline, because there's a lot to get into as the season heats up. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. And I will talk to you tomorrow on our next episode of Locked On Phillies.